Hello, everyone. This is Gary Carpenter with Prepare for College. Uh, that is prepare the number 4college.com. And I know you're getting sick of me saying that all the time, but I'm going to continue to say it until we get it down cold. Today, we're going to go on with some information on student loans. There's been some radical changes in the area of student loans. We're going to give you what information we know to be accurate at this time, but quite frankly, all the details of are not known completely yet. They will be as things progress, but right now we just have the basic information. I'm going to pass this over to Chuck Moore. He's going to monitor this. He'll be asking Al and myself some questions. So, Chuck, take it away.
All right, thank you, Gary. Now, if you or your student plans to borrow federal student loans for college in the future, things are about to change in a big way. The new law, often called the One Big Beautiful Bill, has made some major changes to student loans in, I guess, several decades. So these new rules mostly apply to starting on July 1, the year 2026. So the current students may still have time under the old system. We're assuming that. So, but families with younger students need to prepare right now on this, and this is the reason why we're putting this podcast on. So we're going to try to break this down into simple, everyday English so everyone can understand. So I'm going to open up this session and asking Gary a question here. What are the two major changes to college loans, Gary?
There's two main items we're going to talk about. The first one is going to be the Grad Plus loan. The Grad Plus loan has been around since 2006 when Congress passed a law initiating the loan program. That program, you could borrow the total cost of graduate school less any grants, scholarships, or other loans you had. That program ends July 1st of 2026. You will be able to use it if you're in graduate school now to take out a Grad Plus for the 25-26 academic year, but starting July 1st of 2026, it's terminated, it's gone away. Also, the other major item is the Parent Plus loan. And before it, there were no limits on what you could borrow. What I mean by that is a parent could go in, make an application for a Parent Plus loan. You could borrow up to the total cost of college, less any grants, scholarships, or other loans. And parents took advantage of this. It was how they were funding schools. And colleges took advantage of it. That's how they were increasing the cost of education. The new plan now, effective July 1st of 2026, is going to limit the Parent Plus loan to $20,000 per family per student. And what I mean by family, that's mom and dad. So dad can't take 20,000 and mom take 20,000. No, it doesn't work that way. The parents combined can take $20,000 each year for their child. They can take it up to a max of $65,000. So you can see right away they're going to hit the cap in the middle of the third year. Because if you're borrowing $20,000 a year for 4 years, that's $80,000. So you're going to exceed that cap. So they'll stop that ability to borrow at $65,000.
Let's go over some of the things here, Gary. What is the new borrowing limits for all the students here? I think that's very important for families to know as well.
Well, the new borrowing limits here for under the present rules right now, this federal Stafford loan, also known as a direct student loan, maximum amount they can borrow in their lifetime for a dependent student is $31,000. For an independent student in undergraduate school, they can borrow up to $57,500. Starting next year, those maximums have not changed at all. They're the same. $31,000 for a dependent student, $57,500 for an independent student. Now, for the graduate program, they've put caps on that. So again, you can borrow the regular direct Stafford loan for graduate school in the amount of $20,500 a year, and this is in the student's name. The max they can borrow is $100,000. For a graduate student who is in a professional program such as medicine or law, they can borrow up to $50,000 a year with a maximum total of $200,000. The overall cap for all graduate and undergraduate loans, and this is in the student's name, is $200,000. And the cap for the Parent Plus loan, as we mentioned previously, is $65,000 per child.
So overall cap of undergraduate plus grad. So if I borrowed the 55, 65, 75, 75, that's 27,000. So when I go on to a professional grad degree of a medical or law degree, I can take it up to 200,000 total, which is essentially the grad part. I can borrow the 200 minus the 27,000.
As it stands right now, yes. But that being said, I've seen it go both ways. Okay. I've seen where they say you can just do $200,000 for undergraduate and graduates in total. I've also seen other numbers say $257,500 for undergrad and graduate. We're still trying to get a definition of what's the correct number.
So we'll go conservative for right now.
Exactly. It may change, but for right now, $200,000 is the number you want to focus on.
Gary, can you quickly, I think people need to, the rates change every year, but what are those rates? I mean, the Stafford loan undergraduate is what? Where are we at?
Right now, an undergraduate Stafford loan is at 6.39% fixed. For a graduate Stafford loan, it's 7.94%. And if you take a grad plus loan this year, which you're still eligible to do if you're in graduate school, that rate is 8.94%. And the current Parent Plus loan for this current academic year is again 8.94%. Those are all fixed rates. Okay.
Now, Al, let me ask you a question here. I've heard that colleges can lower how much you're allowed to borrow. Is that true? Even though it's maybe different than the federal loan limits?
According to the administration, remember, a lot of the administration of the law is through the colleges. But the colleges have this issue where they're going to be held accountable if people are not making enough money for their degree. So that's a ratio, that's a number that gets into the math, and you have an enrollment manager, a mathematician that says, I think those odds tell us that we should only allow 15,000 borrowed. And so, yeah, they can do that. They can do that. And what they're doing it is selfishly, really. They're trying to protect their interests, because if they lose that argument with the Department of Education, then they lose all loan capability with all of their students. So needs of the many, needs of the one. I mean, they're gonna protect themselves from crossing that limit. It's kind of up in the air where that limit is, but I'm sure that some enrollment manager type person, mathematician, will sit there and say that limit is 16,000, and that's what they'll do. So yes, the answer is yes. In short, got a little windy there. So
that's all right. So what you're basically saying is that if a particular student, let's say, wanted to borrow 20,000 or qualified to borrow 20,000 for a master's degree, the college could come back in and say, no, we're only going to approve 15,000 a year. Is that correct?
That's correct. And again, that's because they're protecting their interests. It's not anything other than the fact that this is I've said this many times. Colleges are businesses first and benevolent associations of higher learning second. So they're not going to let you hurt them with what you want to borrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Can you explain why deferment and forbearance rules have changed And will it be harder to pause payments in the future for repaying of these loans, Al?
This one's scary to me because even with higher rates, those rates that Gary just talked about, those are pretty high compared to banks. So one might say, well, it'd be better to borrow from the bank. And to some degree, that's true from the numbers standpoint. But in the past, the forbearance issues, I would go in the sake of the government all the time, even though they had higher rates, because if you ran into a flat spot in your career where you were unemployed or lost your job or between jobs or whatever, you could always say, I can keep up with it because these forbearance issues will protect me. After July 1st, 26, those are gone. They're eliminated. So a little worried about that one. That one's gonna bother me. We'll see how it plays out. Sometimes when these rules come out, then the law will change with things that people yell about the most, and so the colleges and the students may get this one changed. But right now, according to starting July 1st of next year, forbearance issues have been eliminated.
One thing, Gary, can you talk a little bit about the loan forgiveness in public service loan changes that's coming about due to the new tax law changes they made?
I can talk about it, but we don't have that much time. It'd take maybe 4 or 5 days. On a serious note, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is still intact. But as you may or may not know, the student has to make 120 payments or 10 years worth of payments, and they must be qualified, meaning they're working for a nonprofit, state, local, or federal government, and they're making payments during that time. Once they meet 120 payments, they can apply for a forgiveness of debt. They also have to certify their employment, and what that means, they have to file paperwork through their HR department, who sends it on to the servicer, and the servicer verifies that payments were made during this certain period of time, and the servicer keeps track of the qualified payments. Now, there is a new program that's coming out starting again July 1st of 2026 called RAP, R-A-P. And what that stands for, and forgive me, I'm having a senior moment. Chuck, do you know what the name RAP stands for?
Repayment option plan.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That program is going to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. Now, right now, there are 8 different repayment programs, from the standard monthly payment to 7 different income-based repayment programs. July 1st, 2026, all 8 of those are going to be replaced by 2 programs. One is RAP, which is an income-based repayment program, and the other one is the standard payment, where you make the same payment every month for 15, 20 years, whatever the term of the loan is. Now, where there is a change, though, especially this is medical people, when you go into residency, you're usually being paid. What we've done in the past is we applied for income-based repayment based on the income, and those payments are not the full payments. They're less. Some of them even sometimes are 0, but they go towards the 120 payments. So it's a qualified payment. But starting shortly, those payments are not going to qualify while you're in residency. So in other words, that medical person has to be finished with residency, out practicing medicine and making payments and working for a qualified employer in order for you to meet those 120 required payments for forgiveness of debt. I think this is going to be, we'll have to see how it turns out. My first thoughts are, you've got 2 payments, standard and 1 income-based repayment. I've seen this before. That's how it started out 15 years ago. And we ended up with 8. I think you're going to see more repayment programs come in based on income, but we just don't know what they are or when they would start.
Well,
I think-
theoretically, what you're saying is that if I'm a medical student or whatever, and I serve an internship, let's say for 2 or 3 years, those 2 or 3 years does not count towards the 120 payments. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is,
Gee,
and that all goes into the planning on how do you pay back these loans.
yeah.
I mean, so it gets very complicated to say the least.
Now, also, Gary, I've heard that it's going to get harder to get a student loan forgiven if a particular school had lied to the student or is actually closed suddenly. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, and I'm sort of upset about this one, and I'll try to be fair in doing the presentation here. But essentially, in the past, if a school went out of business, or if the school lied to the student as to how much they were going to make when they got out, what the degree would qualify them for, etc., things like that, you could go back to a defense of borrower defense or school closed defense. And you would present that and you would have a forgiveness of debt. Now, again, this happened with a lot of the for profit schools who were guaranteeing that you would make X number of dollars, let's say in data processing or computer programming, and you get out and you're not even making enough to make the monthly payments on the loan. In that situation, you would petition to the courts and the loan would be forgiven. That's gone away. Doesn't matter what happens. If you can't make enough money to pay the loan, that's not their problem, it's yours. And if the school you went to does not qualify you for the type of job you're looking for to make X number of dollars, again, that's your problem, not the government's.
Oh,
So
that's not good.
no, and
No.
it's not right either because I saw back, especially in the early 2010 through 2016, for-profit organizations out there marketing heavy, saying we can do this, we can guarantee you'll make this amount of money, and you can get all the funding done through the federal government. They'll pay for the education. You'll have to pay the loan later on, but it's not a problem. And it was purely a marketing gimmick in order to get money into the school, and
Yeah.
would end up closing, and that was it.
Now, would that prevent an individual student from coming in and suing the college on
Oh,
their own?
Yeah, you could sue the college, but I mean, they're going to have resources that the student doesn't even have a chance to match up to. You're not going to win the case. Essentially, what happens.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, I know we've gone over a lot of information and it seems like it's getting more and more complicated as we go along. And we're going to be covering in the upcoming podcast some of the other issues that were passed under the Big Beautiful law. So want everybody to stay tuned and everything. So what I'm going to do is turn it back over to Gary and let him close us out.
thank you, Chuck. And Al, thank you also for participating today. This is recorded. It is on our website. Again, it's prepareforcollege.com. You can see this podcast plus, I think, close to 40 others that are posted up there now. Again, if you have relatives or friends who have students that are about to go to college or in college now, and they're having problems or they don't understand what's going on, give them the website. It may give them some help as far as what to expect or what they're involved in right now. So for all us here at Prepare for College, thank you for your time today, and we'll see you next week.